of you know your professor has a checkered past. I've been a very bad man. And the reason you can't read about me in the National Enquirer is simply this. Because I've told you what a bad man I've been. I don't pretend to be a family man. I don't pretend to be good as gold. I don't pretend to be a saint. I am anything but. I've done bad things. I've smoked pot. I've done ecstasy. I've done acid, mushrooms. I have been married and divorced 4 times. I have screwed around. I've been a victim of somebody screwing around on me more than once. I have been involved in illicit relationships. I've told many of the tales of many of these on the air, the ones that have good radio value. Been arrested, spent a night in jail, accused of assault, never convicted. It's on the record. Accused of threatening to kill an ex-wife. I didn't threaten to kill anybody. But nonetheless, it's out there. I've talked about that. I've told you everything. And if I haven't told you something, just because I haven't thought of it yet. I mean, you know, when you're doing this kind of job, better to be colorful. Better to have stories to tell. Why would you try to hide anything? Well, I guess if you did one of those conservative talk shows, you know, where you're on the air saying how great George Bush is and the Fox News Channel and all that, I guess you'd want to pretend to be perfect. But as we see, so many of them have fallen, like Rush Limbaugh with his drug habit.
I am addicted to prescription pain medication.
And, you know, so many of the other phonies out there, Bill O'Reilly, who couldn't tell a falafel from a loofah, and the list goes on. So I guess if you were doing one of those conservative shows, I guess you might want to pretend to be a family man, upstanding person. You might want to say you've never done drugs, we should put people who use drugs in prison forever, and things like that. Till we find out what you're doing in your spare time, what interns you're calling up as you're lying on your sofa. I just love that stuff. See, in my position, I'm so outrageous. What would surprise you? I mean, what could I possibly say about myself that would surprise you? I'm gay? Well, I'm not gay, and nobody's ever been with me, okay? And, you know, no point in even speculating about it. Somebody could say I'm into blondes. I have dated a couple of blondes, but they're not my faves. They're just not. I like darker hair, darker skin. That's what I like. It's always been my taste. With few exceptions. Bottom line. I don't know what I could say that would surprise you, and frankly, I've done trying, okay? I've pretty much told you everything, and every once in a while I revisit an issue. I revisit something I've told you because I've run out of new dirt on myself to reveal. In fact, the great thing is you become, I never want to say invincible. I don't know if you're ever invincible. But really you get to the point where nothing you say can shock anybody anymore. You can't call me a shock jock. What could I possibly say that would shock you? I mean, we're at the point now where you know pretty much anything interesting about me. You know what kind of person I am. I've made a million mistakes. Everything I pontificate about on the air is a result of doing it wrong the first time, sometimes the first 10 times. Well, I learned the hard way. I put my hand over the open flame many times before I finally figured out my epidermis would get scorched. So when I tell you what I'm about to tell you, none of this is going to surprise you. In fact, it kind of ties in with stuff I've already told you. But it's the kind of thing that I'll bet some of you have experienced. Maybe some of you haven't had as much experience at it as I have. But I have been a very bad boy. As I've told you, I have been in relationships and been with other people. And I have also been with people who were with other people. And I have also been a victim of people who have been with other people while they were with me. I'm all over the place. But recently there's something I'd completely forgotten about that I thought was interesting to talk about as a topic. One time I was dating a woman who was married. She was married to a guy who, I'm not going to say what he does for a living because he may be a listener for all I know, and I don't want to give him the satisfaction. But he had a job that took him out of town for 6 months at a time. And, why do I preach all the time to you boys? You can't be in the military and expect to have a monogamous relationship. You can't have long-distance relationships where you don't see people for 6 months at a time and have a monogamous relationship. You can't. I mean, one of you might be monogamous or the other, but the odds of both of you being monogamous are slim. Don't be surprised at what happens. You shouldn't be surprised. And so here was somebody who was very resentful that her husband was never around. He'd go away. Sometimes he wouldn't call for 2, 3, 4 days at a time. And she had to just twiddle her thumbs or rent movies at Blockbuster. Hot chick. Beautiful body. And, her husband apparently was a piece of ass, too, for that matter. She wasn't with him because he had an incredible career. He just, was a guy who was built, looked great, and he was never around. So her attitude about this is not what I signed up for. Not what I signed up for. And so it started with, her hanging out and telling me the problems with her husband. And all I hear when she's telling me this is blah, 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 blah. She thinks I'm listening to her, and I'm like, telling me the whole story about how he doesn't pay any attention to her. He's never around. And I know why you're telling me this, sweetheart, so I'm just going to sit here and appear fascinated, even though I'm not. And he doesn't call me for days at a time, and this is not what I signed on for, and yes, I knew what he did for a living when I met him, but, then the reality of it, living with him, and then he's not home half the time, I don't see him, and, I'm 28 years old, and I don't know why I'm doing this, and And finally, after having this conversation with her 2 or 3 times, one of the conversations was in the evening. We went out and had a few drinks, and pretty soon her shirt was wide open, and then we went on from there. And it got to the point where we were getting together fairly frequently to have a little romp. And to hear her tell it, she was pretty much at her wit's end with this guy. It was pretty much over. But when people say that, they don't necessarily mean it. Either because it's too complicated to get out, you don't want to hurt the other person, you're afraid the other person will beat the crap out of you, or whatever. So many times people say they're pretty much done. Pretty much done doesn't mean done. Pretty much done means you don't like the way things are, and you're going to start rebelling, but you're not going to take any action to actually get out of there. So you don't. You just kind of keep living at the same address and keep having romps. Now, this gets down to what I wanted to talk to you about. One day, I was out of town. I forget where I was, but I was out of town, and I checked in for messages. And when I checked in for messages, I got the following very threatening sounding message. Hey, Tom, this is Dave. You know, so-and-so's husband. Somehow Dave hit the redial button on the phone, or Dave had checked the phone bill, or Dave had hacked into her email, or something. I've got this call from this guy who sounds like he's ready to show up at my home. And now I don't know what to do. What do I do? Call her? If I call her, I may get him. If I call her, he may see my number on her caller ID. And what do you do now? What do you do? And, of course, I'd done something bad, something wrong. You know, I wouldn't say I violated the guy code because I didn't know this guy. Wasn't a friend of mine or anything. But suddenly, you know, it's just creepy. Suddenly you wonder what's going to happen next. And that's not the only time I did that. Indeed, I dated another woman who was not legally separated, but her husband went to another country and only came back occasionally to visit. He sent no money. I don't even know if he was earning any money. But he wasn't making enough money here, and so he went back to the country where he came from. And maybe every 6 months he would show up and stay for a week and then leave. He'd be back in the former country, leaving his wife just living in the San Fernando Valley with rent to pay. And when she was living in the San Fernando Valley and she had rent to pay, she and I had this situation where we would talk to each other. And again, these things all pretty much start the same way. It starts with her telling all the bad things about him. He's never around. I think he's seeing other people while he's in the other country. He's this to me, he's that to me. I'm broke, I'm here by myself, I don't know what I'm going to do. Starts with that. Then ultimately one night there's a few apple martinis, there's backseat of a car, and suddenly you find yourself in the middle of something that you had no idea you were going to be in. And that was going on for a few months. The guy's not here. He's still not here. He doesn't even have an ETA for his return. He's just gone. And one day he comes back. And now he comes back after several months of me plowing her back 40. He comes back, and like nothing ever happened, he comes back and just slides right into bed next to her, and the two of them are like sleeping in the same bed, like things have never changed. She told me he was there, and so I'm like, well, I'm not going to call over there. Now I feel funny about this whole thing. I thought he was gone, like, for good. And she's like, don't worry about it. Our relationship is over. Don't even think about it. In fact, if you want, I'm sure he's completely cool with this. You just call my apartment, and if he answers, just tell him it's you and you want to talk to me. It's fine. Really? Yes, don't worry about it. It's fine. Okay. So one day I call, and this guy who barely speaks English picks up the phone. And I ask for this person, who, again, I will not name. And suddenly at the other end of the phone, I'm hearing, who is this? Oh, it's her friend Tom. She's expecting my call. Tom, what's your last name? So I tell him. He says, what's your number? I give him my number. He's like, oh yeah, I'll tell her you called. What happened later that night? I don't know if he had spy software on her computer, or he knew her password. Somehow he had entered her email account and found dozens and dozens and dozens of emails that she sent to me. And he printed out all of the emails. And when she came home that evening from work or wherever she was, she walked into the apartment and her emails to me were thumbtacked to every wall in the house. He literally tacked up every single email she'd ever written to me. And then I started getting these desperate phone calls. He's really upset. I don't know what to do. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I don't know what to tell you to do. You're the one who told me this relationship was all over. You didn't tell me he was going to come back and slide under the covers with you. Told me it was over. And this was another one who, like, was pretty much fed up, was pretty much going to get a divorce, but never did. She just stayed married, stayed with the same last name, and, after he left and went back to his country, she continued to see me like nothing ever happened. But did she get a divorce? No. He could have come back at any time. Did she care? No. There's a lot of that out there. But when you get that phone call, when you get that knock at the door, ever get that knock at the door? Or, the threatening phone call? Ever get the call from somebody who says, I'm coming over there right now? All right, you've done something bad like this, okay? You've been with some guy's girl, and he found out. And what's he do next? Does he show up at your place? Does he call you and tell you, I'm going to be there in 15 minutes? Do you stay? Do you run? What do you do? Have you ever gotten a call like that? Have you ever gotten a visit from somebody like that? Have you ever been in a situation like that? How did you handle it?
Tom Leykis.
1-800-5800-TOM.
Tom Leykis.
1-800-5800-866.
The only women who date nice guys all along are women who are not that attractive or are kind of chunky.
Yeah, but I date a nice guy.
You're probably kind of chunky.
It's the Tom Leykis Show.
It's the Tom Leykis Show. At 1-800-5800-TOM. Justin on the Tom Leykis Show. Hello.
Tom, what's up, my big papa?
Not much. My stocks, my paycheck, my ratings. Other than that, Justin, not much.
Not here. Hey, all right. So, I started seeing this married Colombian chick. She was smoking hot, and her husband kind of knew about it. Basically,
wait. Let's take this one step at a time. What do you mean he kind of knew about it?
Well, I mean, he was kind of following me. He followed me around, had friends looking at me, whatever. And he knew where I worked. He knew, like, a lot of information about me. So he chased me down at work. He's following me. So I darted in the parking lot, and he's waiting in front of my job to confront me. But the thing is, he was, like, a really cool dude. He was real nice, real, whatever, and I sat there and talked with him for about an hour. And I thought the guy was just going on a scrap, at first. I thought he was going to want to go down. But he was just like, hey, my wife tells me she doesn't love me and this and that. What are you doing with my wife and all this? And I was kind of like, hey, I'm not doing anything, but, if she's there for me, I'm going to be there. That's it. And so that was it. The guy left, and so we're all friends, whatever. He had to drop her off at my house, so he knew about it, but he couldn't do anything about it. So if he got out of line, he knew that she was, it was completely, like, over with them.
Wow. So he was cool with you, ultimately?
Ultimately, yeah, but he was kind of like this underlying thing. He knew if he effed up with her that, they're through. So, but, it got really weird where, like, all of us would hang out. Like, he started calling us the family. It got really strange, but it was like, I'd go over, I'd nail her. We'd go to her house, and he'd give me a beer, and, like, he was a salsa dancer, too. And he'd, like, give me, like, salsa lessons and all this stuff, so. But he was all right about it. They ended up back together, but, I expected different.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you for that story, Justin. Appreciate the call. Oh, yeah. I've visited South America. Directly and indirectly. More than once. 1-800-5800-TOM is our telephone number. John on the Tom Leykis Show. Hello.
Hello.
Hello, John.
Tom.
Yeah.
How are you?
Doing okay.
What's going on, bud?
Not much.
I got a great Latina story.
Yes.
I'm a white guy from Pasadena area, and I'm working downtown. Start stooping this lady at my work. She's a temp. Apparently she's divorced. Well, apparently she and her machismo get back together, and he found a bunch of emails that I'd been sending her to her Hotmail. What happened then was I got a desperate phone call from her, and about 2 hours later, they both show up at my apartment in Pasadena. He starts beating her, yelling and screaming at me for me to come out. And what I had to do was I just had to call 911. I didn't know what he was going to do to me.
Yeah. So what did he do?
I locked the door. I just watched. Called 911. Waited for the police to show up. Johnny Law came and got him, and that was the last time I heard from her.
I'll bet it was, because she probably expected you to go out there and defend her. You're laughing, but that's how these things work.
Hey.
Trust me.
I'm not risking my ass.
Oh, man. So did she lie to you?
She was lying to me the whole time. She told me that she was going through a divorce and that he lived with his mom.
Well, how do you know that wasn't true?
Well, I'd been to her house. She lived off 4th and Soto. If you know the area, it's the barrio.
Yeah, mm-hmm.
So, I'd been there. He wasn't there. I'd been there several times, and next thing you know, she shows up to my place in Pasadena, and he's knocking on the door screaming for me. So I decided to get the hell out of there.
Wow.
So, on to the next. I'm looking forward to Leykis 101 tomorrow. Can you take me out Kobe style with a JFK Jr.?
Here you go, John.
This is about us. She's so special to me. It beats in my heart. The air I breathe. She's so special to me.
1-800-5800-TOM. I don't like to be completely out of touch with what's going on in the world right now, but if you know anybody who's flying to New York City on JetBlue Flight 292 out of Burbank, they're on a plane with a landing gear problem that apparently is about to make a crash landing at LAX. So act accordingly.
1-800-5800-TOM.
My mom grew up, she went to a Catholic high school, and there was a picture in the yearbook of the girls who were going to go off and become nuns. And I tell you, by modern standards, you would look at that picture and go, dyke, 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 dyke.
The Tom Leykis Show.
It's that simple. We'll say outrageous things on stage we could never get away with here. And it's our first appearance in the Inland Empire. The sooner you buy tickets, the better seats you get. Call this number, 714-740-2000. It's 714-740-2000. You can also get tickets at the Riverside Municipal Auditorium box office. Just go around to the box office and buy them if you like. Or you can go to Ticketmaster.com. There's always information about Boys Night Out at our website. It's BlowMeUpTom.com. It's all there. BlowMeUpTom.com. 1-800-5800-TOM is our telephone number. Let's continue with your telephone calls here. Let's say hello on these calls. Dana on the Tom Leykis Show. Hello.
Hello, Tom.
Hello, Dana.
How are you?
Do you care?
I do.
Doing great.
Okay, awesome. Well, I'm a long-time listener, first-time caller.
Yes.
And I was just listening to the station, and I was just laughing the whole way because everything you just said, I mean, I basically went through it myself. I mean, I've been the wife that has been cheated on. I've been the wife that has been cheated before and never got caught, but...
why would you get married at such a young age?
Well, okay, what happened, I stupidly got married at the age of 18, which was way before I ever started listening to you. Why? Really? We were both compatible and whatever.
Why did that mean you had to sign a contract? Can you be compatible with someone without signing a legal contract?
Well, see, that's where I totally don't even know what happened. Now that I know better a year later, and the relationship did not even last for a year, okay? That's how bad it was. So anyway, now we're not together anymore, but we learned a lot, and I learned a lot, and I grew a lot, especially listening to your station, because had it not been for you, maybe I would have still been the wife that had been cheated on.
Yes.
had I not listened to you. But to go back to my story, I basically just forget it. I'm not doing this no more. I'm too young. I'm only 20 years old. I want to start my career and finish my career before I let a man into my life like I did before. But to answer your question, my husband, which was never proven, but I do believe he cheated on me, and the way it was found out was that the girlfriend's boyfriend had called his cell phone, and this boyfriend was a real macho gangster guy that knew where we lived, and he knew everything about him. So my husband comes home from work scared as heck, okay? He gets all his family ratted up, and his whole family knows, and his whole family is trying to cover him and try to hide him because this guy has threatened to go after him and shoot at the house and I don't know what. So we were just crazy that day. But after that, that's how he dealt with it. Does that make sense?
Well, none of this makes sense. I don't know why you got married in the first place. That part doesn't make any sense.
No. Now
you're still married.
I'm sorry?
You're still married now.
No, I'm not. I'm legally divorced.
Oh, you got legally divorced? Oh, so you're 20 and you're already divorced.
Yes. Wow. No kids.
Uh-huh. Good move there, Ace. No kids, at least.
We had bought property, but I just figured, you know what, it's too much of a hassle to keep, that string still attached. So I just said, you know what, screw it. You take the house payment, you take whatever payment we have, and let me be. Let me just, start fresh myself. So that's what I did. Because after the 5th month, that's when I just said, you know what, we fight too much. This is stupid. I don't know why I got married. Your mind obviously changes from 18, 19, 20 years old. You want to have fun, and you're not ready for marriage. I don't think anybody's married for marriage around that time.
I agree with you on that.
Right, and like you were saying, I was listening to your station, that how you would talk to the girl, and the girl still had her husband on the side. Well, I was that girl. I would, talk to these guys, and I would first come up to them and tell them, how horrible he is to me, and he does this, and he does that, and he doesn't pay attention to me. He puts his friends first, and, it was just funny. It was just really funny to me because I could relate to that so much. And now, a year later, that relationship didn't even last for a year.
Yeah.
Which I think is funny, but now I'm so grateful that, I listen to your station and then I get your advice, and, now I'm a Tom Leykis listener, so.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, Dana. Thank you very much. I really appreciate the call. It's 1-800-5800-TOM. Talking about some of these situations people get into when they're, I don't know, you're involved in some hanky-panky with somebody, you're married, they're married, whatever, and suddenly you get a phone call or a knock at the door. Somebody shows up. What is that like? Again, I mentioned this earlier this hour. We're not a news program. We don't have a news department. And I just know that we have listeners in this area, and I don't believe in being completely out of touch with what's going on. But if you know somebody on JetBlue Flight 292, which took off from Burbank about 3 hours ago for New York, well, you'd better make a few phone calls, because that flight right now is about to make an emergency landing at LAX. Its landing gear is turned 90 degrees the wrong way, and they've been flying around in circles over Southern California, dumping off jet fuel. They're about to try to land this plane at LAX, and they may be doing it without landing gear. And this is a big story right now breaking in Southern California. So those of you wondering if you're listening to a tape or a rerun, you're definitely not. I know many people who've flown JetBlue. It's a great airline. They never have a problem. And by all accounts, just great customer service, wonderful place to fly. And I don't know that they've ever had a situation like this. But we have listeners in our Southern California listening area who live in the area of LAX, Westchester, Inglewood, what have you. Just keep your eyes open because this is about to happen sometime in the next 10 minutes. And it's going to happen on live television. I'm just letting you know this. I would not necessarily want to send you somewhere else, but I know that sometimes we've got listeners who are affected by situations like this. So, again, it's JetBlue Flight 292. It took off from Burbank before 3 o'clock. And they are about to make an emergency landing at LAX, and everybody's got their fingers crossed that they can pull this off safely. But we don't know if they can. So if you know somebody on the flight, you might want to check with JetBlue and see where things are at, or just check with click on a television and see what's going on, because it's all live on television here in Southern California. And I have to imagine that it is also going to be on CNN at some point. In fact, taking a look at CNN right now, yes, it is on CNN as well. And again, we do a radio program and we compete with other media and what have you. But this is a big story, and I want you to be aware of it. We'll take more calls coming up.
Tom Leykis. 1-800-5800-TOM. Tom Leykis.
1-800-5800-866.
As soon as she got pregnant, she decided she didn't want to get no more Hummers.
Well, if I do that for you, you have to buy me a minivan.
You know what? I bought her a minivan.
Did you get a PJ for that?
Yeah, matter of fact, I did.
There you go, you see?
The Tom Leykis Show.
The Tom Leykis Show at 1-800-5800-TOM. Thank you for tuning in. Boys Night Out comes to Seattle's Paramount Theater a week from Friday, September 30th at 8:30 p.m. for tickets. You can call Ticketmaster at 206-529-4051. I'll be your MC. I'll say outrageous stuff that you'll never hear on the radio, along with Bobby Slayton, Steve Brewer, John DeResta. Outrageous stuff that ties into everything we talk about here on the radio. 206-529-4051 or visit Ticketmaster.com. You can always go to blowmeuptom.com as well. 1-800-5800-TOM is our telephone number. Let's say hello to, look at these, Sean on the Tom Leykis Show. Hello.
Hey there, Tom. How you doing?
Doing okay, Sean.
All right. Well, first-time caller. I had to call in. This one hit pretty close to home with me. I was working in downtown L.A., similar to the other guy's story, and worked with this beautiful girl. She's Central American, El Salvadorian girl. I mean, just gorgeous. Curly hair, dark skin, the works. And, she gives me the same story. Oh, we're getting separated, we're getting divorced, blah, blah, blah. And so, she starts coming over. I worked the late-night shift, got off work at 12 o'clock at night, every single night, Tom. She's outside my house waiting for me. It was great.
Really?
For about 8 months we did it like that. Every single night, just like clockwork. She's calling me, where are you? How long until you're home? And so one day, I get a call from her husband. And this just gives you an idea how hot this chick was. He was so pee-whipped that I just fed him this BS line of, oh, I work with her, my cousin works with her, or something like that. And he just went, oh, okay. And that was it. I mean, she just had him wrapped around her little finger, And we just kept on going at it, and then, it looked like he was getting ready to leave her because he was getting suspicious.
Mm-hmm.
And she just called it off, went back to him because I guess he was, pretty loaded. He was some engineer or something like that. He was getting some big bucks. So I said, okay. I had fun for almost a year, so enjoy,
Unbelievable. Sean, thank you for the call. Our email address is my name. It's Tom at blowmeuptom.com.
The Tom Leykis Show.